Hello and welcome to this week's angling vlog. This week you join me back out on the bank and we're in search of pike. So this morning, a day off work, I left the house about 7 o'clock and it's actually 9:15 by the time I've got on the bank. The traffic this morning on the way to the venue was an absolute nightmare. So a journey that should have took me about an hour got on for nearly 2 and a bit hours. Now I am here bankside, I really can't complain. It was a bad accident and they're having a far worse morning than me. So the first thing I've done when I've come to the venue is get the rods out. So as you can see on screen now, we've gone with a mackerel on one rod and we've gone with a smelt on the other. So last time I was on the venue, it was with me little big man Joshy, and I'll put a link to the top of the screen up here to that session. On that day the conditions were ice cold, if I remember rightly, and it was a nice beautiful morning on the bank. This morning pulling up to the venue, there is a frost on the ground. The water is like glass, and they are them winter days that I really do love being on the bank. So the rods are out behind me and fingers crossed we can get a bite. So panning the camera around, you can see we've got one of the rods out there and I've just got it so it's just tad over depth on the bait runner, and I think now we've actually got a run, and we have. How about that, live on camera just as I've turned round. So we'll let that bail arm go and let's see if we can get the first pike on the bank. And that is how you want to start a session, a nice solid strike. It is in deep water so it's hard to tell how big it is. Just going to keep that pressure on and try and get it in. One thing from last time, there is a ledge here that I did get stuck on when I was wobbling. I'm just going to try and keep its head up a bit. And I was just about to say on the blog about the clear water. You can see down here how much clearer the water is from last time. And it's no surprise that a smelt has got the first bite. It's only a small jack, but 10 minutes into the session, we're not going to complain, are we? Let's get him out and take a look. So the pike safely unhooked. You can see it's in lovely condition. A couple of leeches on it. And on the blog from time to time, you'll hear me talk about, you know, checking a pike's mouth. And you can see there that somebody's been bit off and it's trailing. It looks like a maggot rig. So that's why I always check. What we'll do is we'll get that out of his mouth. We'll give him a rest and we'll hold him up to camera. What a lovely way to start the session. A beautifully marked and conditioned pike. That rig that was in its mouth was being removed, but what a lovely way to start a day. When I was sat in that traffic, I was thinking, you know, you're missing the best time of day in the morning, but to get a bite so early on, happy Danny. And back it goes, and that just proves the point there. Look at the clarity of that water. Last time we were here, it was like chocolate, and that's going to be moving me on to my next point. So that last bite come on a smelt, and you know, I always try and pick the ones where you get 3 in a pack. They always kind of give you a decent sized smelt. Where you're getting 4 and 5, they're generally a bit small really. You know, you want a good bait, and like it said there, you know, that, what was that jack, maybe 6, 7, 8 pound maybe, and had no problem picking up that bait. So where was we? We were looking at the swim, weren't we? We've put one bait out there and that is on the smelt that's just gone, and I am fishing that a little bit different than what I would normally do. Normally I'd fish with an open bail arm, but today on that rod I've slackened the drag completely off on that reel to the lightest setting and just turned the spool round so it tensions up and the float cocks so it's tight to the weight. So if a pike picks it up, it'll go flat, and if it moves off, we'll get an indication. And the reason why I've done that is for good reason. The swim here does drop off. There's a first drop off, and then today we're into that deeper water with that float, but it does still drop off as a gradual slope. So if you plumbed up really accurately, you know, you're either going to be too far over depth or you're going to be off bottom if you go too far. So this way you can tighten up, you get the sensitivity of the rig, but you know, you get to be able to cast over a general area and still get that sensitivity. On this rod down here we've got the mackerel, and that rod did as well last time, didn't it? That area is generally shallower, you know, we're on the top of the shelf there, and I've purposely left myself this open water here. You can see plenty of movement there, you know. Bubbles I always think could be pike. They are a species that does produce bubbles a lot of the time, But I've left this water open here because the water's so clear. And what we're going to do today, we're going to spend our time wobbling in this channel here. So there has been a few questions on the blog about the wobbling, so I'll show you the rig. It's as simple as it comes. It literally is a rod and a reel. On there I've got 60-pound braid. This rod does me in summer for Mr. Carp, and I carry it in winter for me wobbling. Just a simple Corum opportunist rod, 2.25 pound. The rig itself, it goes all the way to my wire trace, my homemade wire trace, and on the end you've got Mr. Smelt. Now, it was a method shown to me many years ago by a good friend, Gary Whitehead, who actually taught me how to pike fish. He was the guy who taught me the basics. I was fishing a river one year and they were flooded, and he said, why don't you try the canal? And the rest is history, and we are still good friends to this day. So one hook in its head, one halfway down, and what it does, it makes a kink in the bait so it comes through the water even slower. So you cast the bait in, you keep it on a tight line as it falls, because the pike can take it on the drop, and as you're wobbling it back in like that with the tip, what you're looking for is a dead bang. You know, it's a stop dead. You flick your bail arm off and then it's just a normal take then. And the whole purpose of it is to imitate a dying fish, and as you can see there, as it's coming through the water, you know, you can see there just the clarity, and letting it fall. Imagine if it's out in the lake, as it falls, then pike just can't resist. And while we wait for the bite, just spinning around, you can see super organised. What you don't want to be is panicking when you get a pike. You know, it's in the net, you want to know where everything is. So I know that all my unhooking equipment's in there. You know, we've got a nice base there to unhook the pike, and we've got everything set up. Just been tying a couple of wire traces up. I always do tie them when I'm on the bank. I just find it therapeutic. I'm not really someone who sits in front of the fire at home and ties my traces. When you get into the knack of tying them, you know, you can knock up like 4's just taking me 20 minutes there, and it looks perfect for over there for drifting a bait over this area. Sat here watching the water. Behind them floats there has been a few, you know, silvers topping, so maybe we could drift a bait over this area. But for now, as I say, it's about 11:45. I'm going to recast this rod and then we'll have another look. So what a take that was on that right hand rod again, on that loose clutch. 1 minute the float was there, 1 minute it was gone and it was screaming off. You never know till they come up, and that was quite a violent roll there. Is there another one following it in maybe? Because that seemed a bit too big for the size of the pike that we've got on. And I think I owe you a bit of an apology, Mr. Pike. You don't look like a bad one, and I owe you a thank you for waiting till it's finished tying them wire traces to zoom off. But yeah, the second pike of the day, we'll get him unhooked and we'll take a look. So one thing you'll hear me say regular on the blog is you can learn plenty off YouTube, but there's no substitute for time on the bank. When you're on the bank watching the water, whether you're sat there making a wire trace, you're learning. And one thing that's apparent today is they're definitely coming quick after the recast. I finished tying that wire trace, I had a recast, moments later the rod was away. So it is a strange venue, this one. Like you've seen in the last hour of clips, the wind's been pushing to the point a drifter would have been a good idea. Now flat calm, and this is when you do see the silvers top. You know, they generally are out in open water. You know, it seems weird to move, but last time we sat it out and nothing happened. So a bit of me's thinking, give it till 1 o'clock, and whatever happens, let's have a move. Let's go over that side there and explore that bit. And we can always drop in here for the last hour if we want on the way back to the car. So I've just put the kettle on for the brew. I moved that other rod into slightly deeper water on that mackerel, and it's gone nearly straight away. As soon as that clip ended, the pike did drop the bait and the float come back up. You can see there the teeth marks on the bait, but it just shows the importance of being in the right depth. We've been down there all morning with it. Straight away, as soon as we put it out there, I put the kettle on for a bit of a celebratory brew and turned round and the float was going. So it definitely shows you've got to be not just in the right area but in the right depth as well. So while that kettle was boiling, I decided to have a bit of a wobble with the wobble rod, and halfway in it's just felt that solid resistance. We've just had the drop one over there. The kettle is still going. Is this a case of a bit of a feeding period? It's safe to say that hasn't been the greatest 10 minutes fishing I've ever had. Plenty of activity. We had a drop one on the left hand rod on the mackerel in that deeper water, and that's back out in the general area. And then had a bit of a wobble while I was waiting for the kettle to boil. We had a bang here, and then when I went to strike, the pike had dropped the bait, which does happen. So the very next wobble through, we've got another take. Whether it's the same pike or not, I don't know. Just playing it underneath that other rod. He isn't only a small little jack, but sometimes that movement you just can't resist, and possibly could be the same fish. I say I followed the same line. You see the smelt just hanging out of his mouth, and like I always say, the fish that you probably wouldn't pick up by just being static. Pike number 3, he is only a small pike, but beautiful colours in condition. And when I say about fish that you might not catch if you're not wobbling, look at all them leeches. He's been lying up on the bottom, and sometimes just that movement of a smelt through the water, sparks him into life. And again, after a good rest, time for this little guy to go back, and I don't think he'll have any problems. If he goes straight down to the bottom and just sat down there sulking, and I'm sure there he goes. But I do think that was the same one. It was the same line, it felt the same type of bang, and yeah, great fun. 3 pike makes up for that late start. That cup of coffee behind me should be cooled now, so I'm going to sit back and have a couple of sips of it and just chill out. So just finished me brew, decided to have another wobble through the swim, and we've got another bang halfway in, so we'll give it a couple of seconds to turn it, and then we'll set them up. So you can see there the line just pulling away. So our move was definitely the wrong one. Got a pike resting in the edge there, and the float out there is off again. And a session's going well when you've got 2 pike in the net. And we've been desperate to move swims today, haven't we? But this swim keeps giving us reason to stay. We've got 2 pike there. We'll give them a good rest. We'll have a look at them on the mat, and we might take a look at that one because it's a bit bigger. And there we go. I look at them both in the mat. That was the first one, and there's the second. And I think it's pike 4 or 5. It's good when you're losing a bit count. Great fun today, and look at them for beautiful pike in lovely condition, beautiful colours. Let's get them back in the edge. We'll let this guy go, and we'll hold this one up for camera. And there we go. What a beautifully marked pike that is. I think it's pike number 5 of the day, but yeah, proper made up. A day off work, and for me, as you know on the channel, it's all about just seeing that float go and the excitement on the wobble of feeling that bang as they hit the bait. And I'll quickly go over the setup while it's out. I've got the Elite Deadbait Fox Predator rod, and it's 3.25 pound test curve, 12 foot. I've got a float stop on the line, 2 beads. On this one, I've got a pencil float. It's down to a quick change stubby weight, a quick change swivel, and then my homemade wire trace all the way down to a trusty smelt. Just let them out the net, and there they go. Off they go together. They'll be heading out there now, chasing those roach shoals, and you can see the 2 floats now are quite close together. Yeah, that seems to be, that deeper water seems to be the area, most definitely. So we're coming into the last hour now, and on the way to the venue this morning, I seen a pheasant in the field by the gate, and I must admit, all through today, all I've heard is buckshots going off in the distance, and a screaming reel. We've got another take, and I think that's the second take that we've got live. I think we started with a live take, and hopefully we're ending with one. But with the sun going down, the welcome sight of a little pike breaking the water, and more than welcome. And a manic end to the session. The other rod's just gone. I just unhooked that pike really quickly in the margin. It was only a small pike. And the other rod's gone straight away. So what a manic way to end the session. No more floats out there. I had this little guy in the edge. The hook was in the net, so quickly unhooked him. And I looked up and the other float was going. So quickly just let him go. The decision not to move paid off. Double figure pike to end on. And yeah, we've gone through some jacks today, haven't we? But amongst them, I had an idea would be a better fish. You know, sometimes you've got to think of fish welfare and quickly unhook that pike and just quickly let it go. But this would have been the second double hookup of the day. I think it's about 8 pike. I've lost count, but who cares? It's been a great day on the bank. So the float back out, the sun going down, and this pike has been bashing to get out. So go on, girl. Most certainly a girl. Off you go. You've made the end of my day, most definitely. The rod's back out. We've probably got about 15-20 minutes left, but that seems a perfect way to end. So the session does come to an end there now, and what an enjoyable day it's been on the bank. You know, when you take them days off work and it doesn't go to plan like this morning, sat in that traffic, you are sat there cursing, thinking, you know, I'm missing out. But it's been a really good day on the bank. I've lost count how many pike we've had. We've definitely had 2 double hookups. I think it's about 8 pike, and to end with that beautiful double figure pike. That being said, I really do hope you have enjoyed the video today. If you have, please leave it a like and subscribe down below. And all that remains is to thank you all for the wonderful support. Wish you all tight lines in your own fishing, and I'll catch you all next week. Tight lines.